Happy Tuesday, everyone. It's time for my daddy's podcast.
Welcome back to the Lessons for Success podcast. I'm your host, Adam Wardlaw, a middle school science teacher and a high school football coach in South Carolina. Thank you for tuning in to the podcast heard by over 2,000 students, teachers, and coaches worldwide. The goal is to provide quick daily lessons to help you achieve more in your life. Be sure to reach out to the show on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, and now TikTok by searching L4S Show or using the hashtag L4S Show. Remember, it's the number 4. If you're listening on an iPhone, be sure to give the show a 5-star rating on Apple Podcasts in order to keep our community growing. Now let's start the show. Whether you're in high school and you're looking for your first job, or if you're already retired and you're just looking for a part-time gig, today's episode shares a few tips for your job search. Welcome back, everybody. It's time for another edition of Tuesday Tips here on the Lessons for Success podcast. Lately, I've been inspired to cover things that many people feel should be taught to students in school. A while back, I saw a list of things that schools should teach, and one of these topics was finding a job. Since a huge portion of the audience are students, I want to make sure I'm doing you guys a service by sharing things that'll help you out. These tips can help anyone who is on the market for a new job. You see, here in the last few years, the job market has grown increasingly competitive. The last I checked, the United States unemployment rate was the lowest it had been in roughly 50 years. So finding a job may require more than you're giving it credit for. By using these tips, hopefully you can increase your chances at getting the job you want rather than the job you have to take out of necessity. Here we go. Number 1, be ready to sell yourself. With today's technology, many preliminary interviews are done by phone or other virtual method. Be ready to give yourself a 60-second sales pitch to keep the employer interested. Prepare a statement that best illustrates who you are and what you bring to the table. Rehearse what you're going to say. Stuttering over your words with an employer is not necessarily a recipe for success. By the end of your spiel, the employer should be more interested than they were before. Tip number 2, network. We've all heard of the importance of developing an agency or a network that will support you. In 2020, this may look a little different than it did in the past. No longer are you restricted by geographical location. Through technology and social media, you can develop a network faster than ever before. Understand that you aren't developing a network just for your benefit, but to help others as well. People can see when you may just be using them without serving them in return. While the quality of your network will take time, as all relationships do, you can begin these processes much easier than ever before in history. And our last tip for this episode, number 3, inventory your skill set. What are you good at? What are your strengths and weaknesses? Being aware of these qualities is a high form of thinking, but it's also a pathway to understanding how you can benefit a company and how you can improve yourself in order to be more effective. While an employer may notice things on the job that they'll offer you guidance on, it's important that you show initiative and try to work as many of your weaknesses in a more preemptive fashion. Bosses want to hire people that they can trust to run independently. If you show that that you are capable of improving yourself, you can set yourself apart from others. Well, guys, I hope this helps. If you know of any other words of advice for people on the job market out there, feel free to share them with the show by reaching out on social media. That's all the time I have on today's episode. Tomorrow's hump day, and that means the week is almost halfway over. Talk to y'all tomorrow on another episode of the Lessons for Success podcast. Well, folks, that's it for another edition of the Lessons for Success podcast. Thank you for listening. Remember that you can keep up with the show wherever podcasts are found, as well as the newly updated Lessons for Success YouTube channel. Be sure to follow the show on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, or TikTok to keep up with more content from the show. If you haven't already done so, give the show a 5-star rating on Apple Podcasts. That's all the time I have for today. Be sure to tune in for the next episode of the Lessons for Success show.